Business is changing. Uncertainty is the new reality. Nobody knows what the future will look like, but we do know that the biggest risk is not taking any risk.
Basically, it's predicted that in 10 years from now, more than 40% of Fortune 500 companies will no longer exist.
So welcome to the world where your age, your number of employees, your market cap, your revenue does not guarantee that you're going to be around tomorrow.
Get comfortable with radical change, dare to innovate.
And it's interesting because most people don't even realize that we haven't even seen more than 1% of the change that's coming on its way in the next 10 years.
Organizations today need to translate intentions into actions. Think differently. Ask disruptive questions. This is how you hack your future. If you're in one industry, tab into another.
So what banks are doing, which is very clever, is thinking, okay, how do we expand beyond that? How do we expand beyond just giving them a mortgage? How can we play a significant role in the whole life cycle of purchasing a house? So they're creating a housing as a platform service where they connect their consumers with multiple service providers, allowing them to search for houses, even helping you with evaluating the price of your house when you want to sell it. So really playing a much bigger role in our lives and therefore tapping into these all new opportunities as a bank.
And constantly think, how can I improve the quality of life and the convenience of my customers? How do I make my customers' life better?
Push your boundaries to explore the edges of your business. Reimagine new services, create new markets to generate new revenue streams.
You don't just enter a new market, you enter a whole new world.
The structure of business, the blueprint of business has changed. Traditional businesses operate in one way. Startups, unicorns operate in a very different way. The foundation of business has changed.
I empower global audiences and organizations to use these blueprints.
We look at competition, technology trends, socioeconomic influences, everything that affects your business.
Then we combine these case studies with our framework to help legacy enterprises disrupt their business.
And then we narrow it down to a specific platform that fits your mission, fits your budget, fits your resources and your constraints.
So I want to see a show of hands. How many of you are looking for new opportunities for your business? Okay.
How many of you are looking to access new markets? Okay. How many of you are overwhelmed by seeing how everyone's raising their hand?
We're all in the same boat. What's next? How do we keep up? What else do we have to do? So let's create a path to get there.
Whether I talk about the new exponential economy, digital transformation, or the culture and skills required for the future of work, it's all about showing people and organizations how to think big, because that unlocks opportunities they couldn't even imagine.
Never limit yourself only to your capabilities and your assets.
Instead, use them to create something bigger.
Artificial intelligence will soon be everywhere. Blockchain is changing our financial world. Augmented and virtual reality are blurring the lines between our digital and physical worlds. These technologies are growing at an exponential rate.
It used to take a Fortune 500 company about 20 years in business to reach $1 billion market cap. But today, companies like Google, Uber, and many other unicorns reach that cap sometimes in a matter of years or sometimes even in a matter of months.
The good news is organizations have untapped assets that turn challenges into opportunities. In this new economy, you can thrive, not just survive.
It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm 10 years old, home alone in my parents' house in Tel Aviv, sitting around wondering what to do. I could have joined my friends at the beach, but I wanted something else. I wanted something different. And so, bored with my books, bored with the TV, I all of a sudden hear, CQ, 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 this is 4x4 India Charlie calling from the other room. So I followed the sound into my dad's room, and I realized that it's coming from a little wooden table. And on that table, there's my dad's radio station. Now, I know that I really shouldn't mess around with my dad's station, but I do it anyways. Or at least I try to, because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I start to tinker. I start to dial the antenna and fine-tune it. I start to connect different cables. And a couple of minor electric shocks later, boom, I establish a connection. And I could connect with all these anonymous voices from across the ocean. And now my journey had started. I was literally hooked. And I wanted to get my own radio amateur license. But to get your license, you need to pass an exam in Morse code and in engineering, and you got to understand something. This world doesn't really have many kids in it. In fact, it doesn't have any kids in it. Your average radio amateur person is a male engineer, which meant I wasn't exactly fitting that archetype. When I went to my first class, the reaction was, "Did you get lost? Are you looking for your brother?" And when I said, "No, I'm here to get my license," the room burst into laughter. And so my first reaction was just to run away. I mean, I was 10 years old. I felt extremely rejected by some of the people who I honestly thought would be my best friends. But then I remembered that when I was home alone with that radio amateur station connecting with all these distant voices from across the ocean, I felt as if I was part of something secret, something underground. My curiosity had led me to experience the freedom and excitement that I never felt before. And I wasn't going to give all that up just because of some grumpy old man. So I decided to keep on going, despite this unwelcoming environment, because there was no way I wasn't going to get my license. And so, what started as just another afternoon ended up with me completing my crash course in Morse code and in engineering, getting my license, and officially becoming a hacker. So, now what does it take to be a hacker? It takes 3 things: curiosity, tinkering, and grit. And in my personal story, curiosity, I followed the sound into my dad's room, and I found this new world that I wanted to be part of and I wanted to learn more of. Tinkering, I was playing around with the cables and the rest of the station until I established a connection. And grit, I wasn't going to give up. Despite the obstacle and setbacks along the way, I was going to get my license. We're all even here today because we want to hack something. We want to explore new horizons. We want to find more meaning in what we do. Think about big moments in history. Would they have ever happened without curiosity, tinkering, and grit? Without hackers? Think about the first plane by the Wright brothers. Think about the first submarines, initially called fool killers. Think about women hacking the vote. They hacked the system. And even Apple. They started as a bunch of hackers in the garage and became the establishment. Every single disruption and any major innovation in any category always started as a hack. They start at someone's basement, they learn as they go, they prototype, they make mistakes, they try again, they make mistakes. They have this grandiose vision that no one ever thought of before. These hackers were always considered as crazy and foolish, and we probably even had the same reaction to hackers even 200 years ago. But, we're always going to have this individual geniuses, hackers, entrepreneurs that will always innovate and come up with new solutions despite of the resistance of the system. But is that going to be enough? The pace of change and the scope of global challenges that we are facing today means that we can no longer rely on these few individuals. We need much more than that. And we need to prepare the next generation to cope with this unpredictability. Because I don't need to tell you that the world is changing, right? We know that we're currently experiencing the worst youth unemployment crisis in history. According to the World Economic Forum, 40% of the world's unemployed are youth. And we know that the world of work is changing. Our parents used to have 1 job their entire lifetime. We will probably have 5 jobs in our lifetime. And the next generation will probably have 5 jobs at the same time. And we know that the old notion of university plus good grades equals a career is no longer valid, as we see an entire generation suffering from unemployment like never before. So we know that things are changing, so now what? How do we operate in this new economy? How do we help the next generation thrive and not just survive in this new complex and unpredictable world? And how do we prepare youth to move from school to employment and into jobs that haven't even been created yet? So what we need is a new world, a new model. Because a new world requires new ways, because the old ways simply don't work anymore. What we need is a new model with hacking at its core. We need to actively support the next generation to embrace and develop their hacker mindset. And the hacker mindset is the foundation for the new creative economy. It's the future of work. It's a must-have for tomorrow's leaders. And it's the language of solutions for the world's most pressing challenges. So how do we cultivate a hacker mindset? Well, we need to do a few things. We need to foster students' curiosity with real-world problems, moving beyond academic theory so that they can develop critical thinking for themselves. We need to encourage them to tinker and to investigate why things are the way they are, and not just give them predefined problems with fixed solutions, and instead challenge them to come up with new problems, new challenges that maybe don't have a solution, and they'll need to hack it. And we need to create a space where they will feel safe to express their ideas and develop their confidence and ultimately encourage grit. And I've seen this over and over again in our workshops. When you give students the power to lead and to tinker, they trust themselves, they believe in themselves. And then they try new things without being afraid, and they grow. So why am I here? Because this personal hacker journey of this stubborn 10-year-old girl had led me to pursue my mission to help shape the next generation of global leaders and innovators. And I'm going back to where I began, and I'm reaching out to the world, and this time I'm reaching out to you, because I can't do this alone. We all play a role in creating the world of tomorrow. So how can you help the next generation succeed, whether you're there as a teacher, as an employer, as a mentor, or as a parent? Give them new ways to embrace their curiosity. Encourage them to tinker and experiment in whichever way you can. And when things don't go according to plan, champion grit and tenacity to not quit at the first obstacle and instead see these obstacles as gifts. This is how we grow leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
How do we use data to reimagine work, to create new value, to create new opportunities, to enter new markets? So what are those big transformative questions that you need to ask yourself so that you'll get answers that will completely transform your business? Think about it. Because chances are you can get answers to all these questions. We have the tools, we have technology, we have data, we have AI, but we need to step up and ask these big transformative questions. So what do you need to know that will completely transform your business? And the most important thing that anyone can do today is think about the future. How do you see the future? But in reality, most leaders spend what? 5-10% of their time thinking about the future? We spend very little time thinking about where we're going. We spend most of the time thinking on where we come from. And 90% of the time, we make decisions based on past performance, past success, past capabilities. But in a world of constant change, we can't continue to operate this way. I personally think that leaders should spend at least 60% of their time looking forward, thinking about the future of their business, looking forward, not backwards. And you can be sure that AI won't replace you or your business, but a person that knows how to use AI will. It's all about this combining this human intelligence with machine intelligence to get these exponential results. That's the power. It's stronger than just human intelligence or just a machine intelligence. We enter this human plus machine intelligence era. And you know, we're just at the beginning of this AI revolution, right? We all have now access to so many AI tools, AI applications, most of them powered by GPT. So why now? Why is this all happening now? It's all happening now because only now there are three trends that are converging. Big data, So now everything is getting digitized. We use data to represent everything, and then we're using this data to build AI, train AI, maintain AI. And data can be anything. It can be photos, video, temperature, location. You can represent anything with data. We also now have a new class of processors designed specifically for AI, and their computational power is growing exponentially. You've probably heard of Moore's law, so they're becoming faster and cheaper. And lastly, machine learning, which are AI algorithms, has gone open source. Now everyone has access to these AI algorithms. That's why we see all these AI apps everywhere. So when all these three things happen at the same time, we see this AI revolution that's just starting at the moment.
Key exponential technologies that are affecting the tourism ecosystem are AI, IoT, voice technology, automation, and blockchain. Let's take a closer look at each of these technologies. So on the AI front, we already see travel websites becoming more intelligent, right? Delivering personalized results. We also see chat platforms helping travel players to provide better services. And we see machine learning algorithms helping travel providers, travel players, to really make sense of all this massive unstructured amount of data that is connected to their business, like photos, like videos, like social. AI still has a long way to go, although it's absolutely happening. And probably in 2018, most of the development in AI is going to happen behind the scenes rather than as part of the actual user experience. But it's definitely on its way, and the most important thing is collaboration between travel players and to continuously invest in AI. The next one, IoT. So connecting objects and devices creates a whole new form of dialogue with the physical world, which basically helps brands to really up their game. So think about it. For example, you can measure the body temperature and anxiety levels of a traveler on an airline seat and then serve them with relevant services. You can adapt the temperature in a room in a hotel by the guest preferences. You can do many things. The biggest challenges here are cost and cybersecurity. And voice technology, close cousin of AI. Already replacing screen time. As we see more and more customers searching, buying, shopping, relying on voice technology to plan their trip ahead of time, but also to connect with travel players during their trip. The biggest disruption using voice technology will most probably happen in the business travel before the leisure travel, because business travelers, they know what they want and they need less information to book. So it's a great target audience for early iterations. And automation. By 2020, so less than 2 years from now, it's estimated that we're going to have 10 million autonomous cars on the road. Biggest impact on ground transportation. But also it will impact the workforce. And there the biggest opportunity is to reinvest in your existing talent rather than replacing them. And blockchain, the underlying technology of the entire cryptocurrency market, has many implications for tourism. Probably the most obvious one is sharing your personal data more safely and securely, reimagining loyalty programs, streamlining online distribution. I don't see blockchain putting any travel players out of business anytime soon, but it will definitely force a lot of them to adjust their business models. And we see that the platform economy transforming the tourism industry because it provides a new foundation for value creation. We've already seen platforms like Uber and Airbnb radically changing the on-demand dynamic, allowing small companies to enter this space, compete with really big players, and really increase the competition. So the most important thing for traditional travel players today is to collaborate. So to share assets, to share information. We'll see more and more B2B types of interactions. And the prerequisite for this collaboration is interoperability between networks and systems. Because ultimately what you want to create is to allow your customer to share their data at a single point, and then that data will be transferred in the background to all the relevant travel players. And from a traveler perspective, it will create a seamless, personalized customer journey. So for example, if your flight is being canceled, you want that information to be sent automatically to a taxi driver, which will then know to take the passengers to a different airport and then to an alternative flight. And lastly, Travel providers will also have to provide transformational experiences, more unique, more authentic experiences to their customers to really stay relevant in this reshaped industry. Thank you very much.